You could help, you know.
Huh?
You are Badonkagonk, either one. We're live. We're here.
I'm enjoying
Everyone's
the view, man.
We're good.
Hey.
We are good.
Oh, hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome, everybody, to the Badonkagonk Star Wars Podcast,
Badonkagonk!
where we are going to be talking about lots of Star Wars stuff today, including the Star Wars book. Eric has it over there, right?
Brotherhood. It's our first book review. Nope, that's enough. We don't have time for you, Gonk.
Why?
You get the restraining bolt.
I thought we said we weren't going to do that.
No, we're doing it now.
All right. Well,
No, we'll let him go for a bit. But soon, if you don't, behave, he might get it again.
All right. Well, welcome to the Badonkagonk Podcast. This is our second episode. Hopefully you guys caught our last one.
Yep.
And if you're catching this not live on twitch.tv/blindwave, it is available on YouTube, I believe Spotify, I think Apple.
Yeah.
A lot of places that you can listen to podcasts. You can find this there as well. So appreciate everyone tuning in and everyone listening at home on not visual methods as well.
But if you aren't, you would be missing our amazing set. I mean, the ship that we're in.
Sure.
With the droid that we have.
Yes. Which also, thank you to Jake and Maggie for working on this. And I don't know if we actually
Did they do
talked
anything?
about them last time.
I thought we
on
did
some
most of
stuff, but
Oh, okay. I guess we should give credit to the people that deserve it.
they did a lot of good work and a lot of cool stuff on this. So we appreciate all that for them too. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, what are we getting into?
I want
first?
to talk about how fun it is to say Badonkagonk.
Badonkagonk.
I find myself screaming it. Badonkagonk! I mean, just try it.
Badonkagonk.
Isn't it fun?
It's
It's kind of fun. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Okay.
You gotta make sure you have the G in there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spelling is important.
I guess so. Sometimes.
That's me saying it. I actually had to read a book.
You read a book?
Yeah.
Dude, when's the last time you read a book? Like a full all the way to the end.
Huh. It was probably a Star Wars something.
Yeah.
If it counts, I mean, I didn't read this. I listened to it on Audible. But
You did. He did listen to it.
I did last year when we went on vacation. I did listen to a Star Wars book in the car with Melanie. So that was the last book I can remember listening to, at least. But,
Yeah.
I read some stuff about this book, but I didn't. Most of it I just listened to.
Yeah. Cool.
So
Okay. Well, we're going to be getting into that later, aren't we?
yes, we are.
What we got going on today, Aaron?
A few things. We're going to be having some celebration talk of celebration last
yeah.
month when we were having our first podcast was going on. And
Like that day it was
Yeah.
going on. We did some news, but there was a bunch of other stuff that we weren't able to cover.
So we didn't cover a lot of that. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff today. We also have a spotlight of something that Eric has brought to the table. That
Yeah, I
also
got
don't-
something.
I don't even know what it is.
Nope.
Really. All I know is I know what movie it's from.
You know what movie
And
it's from.
that's all I've really got. So
Yeah.
we're going to be covering that as well. And then we also have the Brotherhood book that we're going to be talking about. And through it, we're going to take a few questions and stuff. If they pertain to the discussion going on, we may talk about them in the middle of some of it. But at the end, at least, we'll cover some, pick a few questions. And
so get your questions
some
in.
stuff you guys have. So, yeah, you guys can do that live on Twitch with the channel points down in the bottom of Twitch chat. Submit some of your questions and whatnot.
And if you're watching later, it's a great way to interact with us, trying to get here live at twitch.tv/blindwave.
Yes. Also, if you see us sweating, the ship's air unit is messed up a little bit. So it's a little warm in here.
Yeah, we're here on Coruscant, and it's kind of nice out there, but in here it's a little warm.
Yeah. We're hoping they get it fixed up here soon. So
Yep. Okay, Aaron, we're going to start with some celebration news. Now,
I'm excited for this because I didn't really look into much celebration news.
Yeah.
So I don't really know too much of what they announced yet. So.
Okay. Well, we're going to be jumping right into it. Again, there was some stuff last time, and then we talked about like Bad Batch and Andor. We had a trailer.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff is still available on our YouTube channel, the trailer reactions. But we're going to get into some of the stuff that wasn't necessarily reactable. The first one here that I have a decent amount of stuff that I was super excited by. Again, you don't know any of this. Star Wars Visions to return in spring 2023
Like
with
season 2?
Volume 2.
Ooh.
Star Wars Visions, the series of animated short films that celebrate the galaxy far, far away through the lens of anime creators, will officially return spring 2023. Now, the interesting thing here is I hear that it's not just Japanese creators. We're going to be going to some other cultures.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like instead of just Eastern Western, but you're saying like just
Yeah.
all over. That's
what I hear. I mean, maybe like this section might go to a different country or a different culture to be able to have that lens of Star Wars go through, which was my favorite part of Visions. However, part of me still is like, well, can we get please a sequel to The Ninth Jedi?
Sure. No, that's what I was thinking about a little bit too. Is like, well, with Visions, there was some stuff I really liked. There's some stuff I didn't like as much. But I wonder if it will be all new, like one-off stories as well, or if it'll have any kind of connection to any previous stuff. Like if they get any of the same studios to do stuff, would they want to continue the stories they already started and whatnot? So that could be really cool.
I mean, I gathered this information, but I didn't go too deep because some of this stuff was locked behind, like you had to be there, be able to see some of like exclusive trailers, and I didn't want to get too far into it because we do like to react to stuff, and sometimes you want to keep some of that for at the table. But I'm just excited for Visions season, or Volume 2 is what's being called. So that's awesome.
Cool, yeah.
This is an interesting story that came out of Celebration about Andor. We saw the trailer and that looked awesome, but one of the reasons it looked awesome, I thought, was that in an exclusive interview with IGN, the Andor executive producer, I think the name is Sane Wolfsberg, revealed that the upcoming Disney Plus show will be the first Star Wars show to not lean on stagecraft or the volume, the immersive CGI screen that was used in Boba Fett and Mandalorian.
They're actually going to be doing like location stuff.
Yeah, the quote here is, "We haven't been working with stagecraft at all on our show." And it's the first Star Wars show to not do that. So
that'd be cool.
When I watched that trailer, the first thing I thought of was like, this looks different. And I think why it looks different is it's real locations and conventional filming. So
yeah, the volume can do a lot of really cool stuff, but there's still like, it's that thing of like, well, CGI is really cool, but there's something really special about models, like there's just a difference to it.
I'm interested to see. They said they haven't been using it at all, but I wonder if they're still going to be using it for space sequences, for stuff that you can't.
Those are some of the best times to do it. You can't go location on that.
Unless you're Tom Cruise, you can't go up to space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. This is a smaller announcement, maybe not so much for you, but you do have some kids.
I do.
Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures is a new show headed to Disney Plus and Disney Junior that is aimed at pre-kindergarten children.
Oh.
And it is set during the High Republic.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
they've had a lot of like young adult and like kid-oriented books, like kid. So I've seen a few of those. Like they even have stickers and stuff in them.
Sure.
So
I mean, it's not something that I'll probably jump on, but I really like some of the animation, that like Galaxy of Heroes stuff. Have you ever see that on YouTube? They have like Dante Basco, like in a Galaxy of Heroes.
I don't think
this happens, and it's some really sweet animation.
That's neat. No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's necessarily something that we cover on the channel.
Yeah,
but
it's not like Forces of Destiny or any of that. What was it called?
Forces of Destiny was the YouTube canon series. I imagine it's still canon. It's just going to be aimed at a younger audience.
Okay.
So
I've seen a few of the Forces of Destiny with like I think it had like Rey and Leia in those and stuff like that. But
yeah, there's a new Lego special coming, which we've seen one Lego special. There was a Halloween special. Did you ever watch that?
I never watched the Halloween. There was the holiday special we saw.
Yeah,
we watched that one.
Yeah,
they had a few Lego things.
The Halloween special, Halloween flew by. We didn't do it, so I watched it on my own.
You would.
I did. It was really good. I quite liked it. And this one seems fun, too. Star Wars Lego Summer Vacation.
Like Pikachu did.
Is set to arrive on Disney Plus August 5th. It will see Rose, Rey, Finn, Poe, and Chewbacca taking a vacation after feeding Emperor Palpatine.
Wait, after what?
After Episode 9.
Oh, after defeating.
Yep.
Oh, you said after feeding.
That would probably be a good vacation as
about?
Well, but I don't think that's what's happening.
Fed,
they'll quickly learn that other Star Wars characters who have attempted to take a peaceful vacation have not had much luck.
Okay.
Alongside the return of many classic characters, Weird Al Yankovic will make an appearance as Vic Vanco. Vic Vanco.
Okay. Weird Al.
Weird Al, who...
As a Lego?
A Lego character.
All right.
It won't be Weird Al. It'll be Weird Al playing
Weird
a Star
Al.
Wars Lego character.
Sure.
Yes.
That'd be... All
it's
right.
Very exciting.
Interesting.
Yes.
I wonder if I have any songs.
That's the thing.
Like, what if he sings, like, Episode 1?
Weird Al Yankovic Yankovic, he's very integral to some of my Star Wars fandom back then. I listen to that song all the time, baby.
What was his name?
Vic Vanco. Vankoh. Vic Vanco.
Okay, so they're like trying
playing
to take
around
his
with his
name
name
and moving it around.
Yeah,
a little bit.
that's a classic thing that Lucas would do.
Sure.
Back in the day, we had Captain Panaka.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Korsh Panaka, and the guy that played him was Hugh Korshi. So you would do little things like that, just kind of like wink at the people that are playing it, or someone that was special to you, or something like that. In fact, I think J.J. Abrams continued that. Dameron is the name of like his assistant.
Oh yeah.
And he used that name. So, yeah, Weird Al, that would be fun. I'm excited for that, honestly.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I wouldn't. It's funny that it's like a draw.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, Weird Al's gonna be in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's cool.
Let's see. We got some other stuff here. Nice Old Republic. The Sith Lords. So KOTOR 2 is going to be announced for the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, okay.
So
like not like a remake, just like a port.
Yeah, I think the first one is going to be up there too. Is up.
Yeah,
on there
I think
now.
they already have that.
So
one.
we got Sith Lords, and it's going to be having the complete like mod that was done. The
oh, okay.
so,
well, that's better than 2.
Yeah, I know that
they rushed it and didn't have. Like,
yeah,
the
Obsidian
final
took it from BioWare, and then they had to rush it for holidays, and the fans had modded the game, but this is going to have that restoration mod put in place, is what I hear, and that will be released June 8th. So pretty close.
June 8th.
I think it's out.
Last week.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's been a while. It's been
Sure.
a month since last Badonkagonk. Guys, let us know if you're loving Badonkagonk, if you want to see it more. Specifically, tell it to Rick and Calvin.
Tell them on Twitter.
Yeah. Okay, this is a fun one. This is Dave Filoni talking about Mandalorian.
Okay.
And he said that the Mandalorian executive producer and writer Dave Filoni has revealed that he has hidden a tiny Akira Kurosawa figure in every episode that he's directed of the Mandalorian show.
What? What is this?
So Dave Filoni, we all know Dave. He sat at the feet of George Lucas learning about Star Wars, but Lucas sat at the feet of some other great directors, including Akira Kurosawa. So to keep that tradition alive, and he likes to look at that little figure, that little man.
How big is it?
I don't know how big.
Yeah.
I haven't found it. I need to go back and watch these. That's the thing. I want people to come together and try to find where this hidden figure is.
Sure. Like he didn't direct every episode, so it's not. It's not a lot of episodes.
I think he's directed 2 or 3.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but we'll have to watch out when Ahsoka comes.
This is
up.
like a pineapple or Superman.
It really is. I thought that was very exciting. Let's see. We also got one more, and this is a pretty big announcement that we haven't talked about, and I've wanted to talk about this for a month, but we haven't.
Okay.
Star Wars Tales of the Jedi is an upcoming anthology of original animated shorts heading to Disney Plus this fall that will not only tell stories of Ahsoka and Count Dooku at different parts of their lives, but we will also see Liam Neeson return to voice Qui-Gon.
That's cool.
So there was a trailer that was put out for this, but it was only for the Celebration people.
Okay.
There is a leak of it out there, but we don't support leaks or piracy
Sure.
at all.
And a lot of that stuff will end up being. It'll be shown eventually anyway.
It will, eventually.
But that's interesting.
But I did see a photograph
Count
of
Dooku being
young
there.
Count Dooku.
Like he'll be a Jedi then.
He'll be
like
a Jedi.
When he was a Jedi.
He will have a Padawan.
That'd be interesting. Well,
Yeah.
who was his Padawan?
I think that's the one. I think of all the announcements, I'm most excited for Tales of the Jedi.
That'd be cool.
We're gonna be having Ahsoka. Like from what I understand, like one of the Ahsoka episodes is gonna be her original homeworld, found by Plo Koon.
I hope they do it and have fun with it, and
Yep.
it goes well. And then maybe like when I was younger, the Jedi Apprentice books,
Yep.
like stuff like that, where it was
The June Watson books.
yeah, like those kind of things were really cool.
They
but
were.
they're not canon anymore. But having
not.
some like animated
Yep.
versions of like here's Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon out when he was a Padawan still. That would be really cool to see, like some of those kind of stories and him growing up to become a Jedi Knight. I would like to see that.
Yeah, I think I heard something about them saying that. I think it's going to be returning voices from Clone Wars for everybody that is appropriate, and then Liam Neeson. I also heard someone say something about Liam Neeson's son possibly playing a younger version
Like
of
him or something.
which would be kind of cool. I think he likes it.
Liam Neeson, of course, yeah. I like the idea of having Liam Neeson and Qui-Gon being around.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah,
that's cool. I like the idea of that.
I do too. Definitely something that we would cover. Each
Well,
and
yeah.
every week
I wonder
when it
how
comes
many
out.
episodes there'll be.
I know.
How long they'll be?
From what I understand, too, you started, I thought you said at one point, where we were dabbling, before we actually started Badonkagonk, you were dabbling with reading the Ahsoka novel.
Yeah.
From what I understand, they're going to be adapting something from the Ahsoka novel as well.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah,
So-
that's actually when we're talking about like what the last book was that I read.
Yeah.
That was what I listened to when I
Gotcha.
went to the beach like a year ago or whatnot.
Sure.
Like Melanie and I listened to that, and it was I like it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some interesting story stuff you could pull from that
Mhm.
and turn into like an animated short story
Yeah.
or whatever they're wanting to do with that.
Mhm.
I wonder if it'd be more like Visions, where they're just whatever length they need to be, or if they're all going to be like you know,
Sure.
22-minute episodes to fill like the time slot.
No,
or
yeah,
what they'll do.
with it being Disney Plus, I'm sure it's going to be just like Visions, just with a Clone Wars-like style.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I like that. No, that's really cool.
Man, who's the guy that voices Dooku? Is it Corey Burton?
Corey Burton.
Corey
does,
Burton? Like, I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one part in Clone Wars where you saw that, like, Yoda has a vision, he sees, like, Count Dooku as a Jedi?
Yeah, at the tree.
At the
They're in
Untitled tree
yeah.
courtyard. That was so cool, and I just want to see more of that.
Yeah, like Qui-Gon was there and
Yep.
stuff too, and
Yeah.
no, that would be a really cool moment. And being able to see him, like, it would. The thing that we would need to see too is like what turned Dooku.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I know there's like some other books and stuff that he's in and whatnot too that we haven't read yet. So there
We
may be some
haven't.
of that kind of stuff
Eventually,
discussed
yeah.
in that as well.
The Count of Serena.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's some of that we'll be able to talk about, but I don't know what that's like, and I want
Yeah.
to be able to experience that a little bit.
I'm kind of interested in, like, Dooku was, like, if not one of the richest people in the galaxy. That's how he can fund the war, right? Or at least that side of the war.
I guess. I mean, he has a count.
He's a count. But, like, can you imagine, like, his parents gave him up as a baby? Or maybe he was, like, a younger brother, and they sent him off the Night's Watch, like the Jedi.
Yeah,
and then his older brother dies, or let's say he, like, leaves the Jedi, and then there's a mysterious death in the family, and he suddenly becomes count. I don't know. I don't know any of that history, which I'd be really interested in. There's a lot of, like, cool ground to cover. Maybe Tales of the Jedi is one of those ways we can get more information.
Sure, that'd be
Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, that's celebration news and stuff with that then. And was there anything else that was?
That's the gist of all the big things. I mean, there was a lot of cool video out there, a lot of interviews, and again, some secret behind closed doors videos that we don't get the privilege to see.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're going to celebration. There's
Mhm.
definitely going to be a few things where it's like you guys get to see this at least first,
Yeah.
and then like later on when maybe we, you know, perfect some of the stuff. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes there's like visual effects or they're going to make a longer trailer to
Sure.
actually release, and then we'll get to see it eventually. But
Yeah. The only other thing about Celebration that I would constantly hear is just the disappointment of fans that were trying to that can't make it, right?
yeah,
Because I felt like there was a couple times in previous celebrations where they just kind of streamed those things and you got to watch them, but this year, no. You did not get to stream them. You're just kind of waiting for people to live tweet or talk about it, or the next day get the videos that you're not supposed to film, but people filmed anyway. So, and then obviously they announced that Star Wars Celebration London will be happening next year, which is the first time since the pandemic that I'm very tempted to leave America.
to leave America.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing that, but if we did, we would have to lunk this guy. We have to take him through customs. We're going to have to put the restraining bolt on him like all the time, and you know how he gets when this restraining bolt's on too long. So
Sure. Yeah.
all right, okay. What I say? What I say?
Well, you tempted him.
No, he needs to learn. Have you been following Gonk on Twitter, Aaron?
A little bit.
Badonkagonk?
Yeah. At Badonkagonk on Twitter. Yeah.
He has kind of developed an unhealthy relationship, or I should say one-sided relationship with Sam Witwer.
Yeah. I mean, it could be healthy.
I mean,
Right.
we have to talk to Sam about that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Sure.
We don't want it to be an obsession with him, you know?
Yeah.
He spends all of his time down here.
Is this why you restraining bolted him so you could talk about Sam Witwer?
Whenever I
Otherwise,
got
he'd go
here today,
crazy?
there was some stuff that happened that we talked about how we were going to keep it between me and the Gonk, okay? And if he's good, I'd keep this off. But yes, there was some very interesting pictures that he had cut out and printed off the internet. I don't think they were real. I think they were photoshops, but I think that they would make Sam Witwer uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, I didn't see that, so I don't want to know anymore. If you took care of him, is that why we got restraining bolts now? All right. But Donkagonk, you need to be good. I think he's afraid to talk now. So
Yeah, you can talk. It's fine. I'm sorry. I don't mean to shame you. You know, and I know I don't want to shame you. Aaron, that was Celebration.
Ah.
What we get into next?
No, Celebration. That's really cool. I'm excited for some of that stuff, and I'm sure when we have trailers and stuff, we'll end up checking some of that stuff out as well. The next thing we have is actually the Spotlight. That you were wanting to showcase with us and everything. So.
Okay, so to set this up, a lot of you guys remember from the regular Blind Way podcast, so when I was studying for the Schmodown, I was watching Star Wars literally every day. Every movie, as much as I could, studying on flashcards, poring over every shot.
Yeah, of course.
And I previously had shared that I discovered, after watching it in my youth hundreds of times, I never knew that Chewbacca was injured in Return of the Jedi during the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
Never, ever noticed it until I was literally pausing each frame, counting how many Gamorreans are in this shot. Fuck you.
Sure.
I was doing that.
To the point of actually, you could see a wound.
Yeah.
Like an injury.
You can see a wound. You can see him grimace. And I will never watch that movie the same. This is similar. It's in the same regard. You're never going to watch this scene ever again. And this is one of many of these types of scenes. But this is my favorite one.
All right.
Okay?
I know it's from A New Hope.
This is from A New Hope. All right. It's a scene of heading towards the hangar after talking with Han Solo, heading towards hangar. I don't remember. I just blanked on it. I think it's 94, right?
94.
Okay, so I want you to watch this scene. We have it up right now. And Aaron, you're going to tell me what is wrong in this scene.
What is wrong in the scene? Okay. So
I'm
watching the scene.
And it just happened before your eyes.
It just happened?
It just happened. Ladies and gentlemen, this is movie magic. And a lot of magicians would say you should never reveal the secrets, but I was watching this far too long, and I noticed the smallest lateral move across the screen that didn't make sense. Now you're going to rewatch it, and you're going to watch R2-D2.
Watch R2 with it? Okay.
Watch just R2.
I wasn't watching anything specific last time, so
watch R2-D2.
Oh, is it? So, how does he get from there to there kind of thing?
So, Kenny Baker's inside this R2 unit, and it is slow.
Sure.
It is so slow that in shots like this, when they're walking, he cannot keep up. Now that you've watched that scene, you're never not going to notice that second R2 unit coming into shot because this one is all the way back here.
Catch it. He's going like this.
Yeah.
The angle doesn't work.
So now you're never not going to watch that shot and be like, oh my God, that's a second R2-D2.
Was Kenny in both?
That's what I wanted to ask. Who's in the second R2-D2?
I don't know.
I looked. No one's credited. Maybe it's just a remote control. I don't know what the technology was at that point.
Cut. Can we watch it one more time?
Watch it one more time.
And I want to see. Can we see the wheels and everything in both versions of those?
We're going to look.
Man,
you don't see any
wheels.
wheels.
Any of the wheels or anything. And then it's just there.
Yep. That one you can see more of the struts.
Yeah, man.
But two R2-D2s in one shot. Movie magic, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And again, you'll never not see it now. You're welcome.
Yeah. I didn't notice it the first time because R2 is just there. But when you're really looking at him, the angle of their turn down that that corner, it doesn't really match where he's coming from. He's coming from a different angle. So
now that you have that in your head, and when you watch those types of scenes, you're going to be noticing, man, R2 didn't step over that step. He just did it over the cut. Or
they do that all the time.
It's man, he was right behind Luke, and where the hell did he go? Oh, he's back behind Luke again, but he wasn't going that fast.
He wasn't there a second ago, so that's interesting.
So that is the Spotlight, R2-D2, two R2-D2s in one scene.
Two R2-D2.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric, for some.
You're welcome, and I hope I could have ruined the movie more for you in the future.
All right. Well, let's get into the main chunk of what we're going to be discussing.
Yeah.
Which is the Star Wars Brotherhood book.
Star Wars Brotherhood. We're going to be checking it out right now. I want to say before we get started that I used to read all the time as a kid, and I haven't read a book since starting Blind Wave.
Okay.
It's been a long time. But I used to read a book a week or in a weekend. So when we got this book, I was like, 300 pages or whatever it was. I don't know. It's
I don't know how long pages.
Yeah, you don't know the pages because you read it. But
it was like 12 hours, but at 1.25 speed, it was a little less.
332 pages. I'm like, I could do that in a night. I have done that in a night. I couldn't do it in a night. I stayed up last night finishing it.
Were you?
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
No,
but I got it finished and I quite enjoyed. So, Star Wars Brotherhood, Aaron.
Yeah, Star Wars Brotherhood. Obviously, especially if you look at the cover, it's focusing on Obi-Wan and Anakin, which actually the chapters are listed. It reminded me, and I've never read them, but I know that Game of Thrones does that chapter thing where it's like Arya Stark or Jaime Lannister, and like that's the title of the chapter because that's who it's like focused on.
Sure.
But yeah, we have Obi-Wan and Anakin is the main focus of this, and it's set in between Star Wars Episode 2.
Barely set in between Star Wars Episode 2 and Episode 3, right?
And the Clone Wars.
And the Clone Wars. That's the thing.
That's where I was going to pin it. Is in between the Clone Wars and Episode 2.
This is the secret first episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars,
a way. It really is.
It's what it felt like to me.
It was one of the things I was thinking about, too, is like a thing that it really does really well for me is the transition from Episode 2 to the Clone Wars that I didn't think about, I guess, or I didn't think that I needed.
Sure.
So I really like that. A lot in that, and I was going to dive into that more later on too, because I had a few notes on like the transition of things that they show and what they talk about with that. So, but no, there's also some other character introductions that they have in it too with Roog, right?
This is interesting. I read this book and Aaron listened to it.
Yeah.
So I have my cheat sheet here with all the names that I like. I don't want to say that. But I can say mine, and then you can say yours.
I'm curious, yeah. So, like, yeah.
So, I mean, you already said Roog, but I was going to say Rug.
Rug?
Rug Cornam.
Yeah, Roog Cornam is how I heard it in the audiobook.
That sounds so much better.
Than Rug?
Yeah, I was like, I love Rug, but Rug's name is Rug. Roog,
yes.
Okay.
We also have another chapter named after a young Jedi.
Yeah.
Which, did you have the name for that one?
Mil Alibeth.
Mil Alibeth, yeah.
Mil Alibeth.
Yeah. There's not so much hint of the Ali, but Alibeth.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I also had another one as a, not necessarily didn't have any chapters named after it, but was an important character. I feel like it was Roog's apprentice kind of thing, like a partner. Did you have that as a name?
Ketar. Yeah.
Yeah, Ketar. Yep. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one was not too bad.
What was weird for me was that I didn't know how they were spelled.
Really?
So like when I was like, wait, how do you spell Ketar? I imagine it was a Q.
Gotcha.
But it was with a K, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So no, that was fun.
Okay.
And then also one of the things I really liked in this too was another one of the main characters in this is like the first appearance of Asajj Ventress in the order with like the Clone Wars and everything. So
yeah, we actually get to see Anakin and Obi-Wan meet Asajj Ventress in this. Now, granted, if you haven't read the book yet, I think you can listen in and enjoy it. But if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. How long did it take you to realize that was Asajj Ventress? For me, it felt pretty immediate, but I was like the way the story was written, I was wondering if it was trying to keep it a little more mysterious.
Sure, I don't think it took me too long. To know. I mean, I didn't pick up right away when you have like the Dooku thing being like, I will send my associate. I don't think he used associate, but I will send my someone. He didn't say apprentice either, though.
No, he didn't. He said agent.
Yeah, my agent.
Yeah.
So I will send my agent.
Dooku's agent.
I didn't think of it being Asajj Ventress then.
Yeah.
But later on, whenever she like showed up and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, I think I know who this is. And then as it went on more and more, I'm like, there we go. So
no, it's a very interesting story because this is the beginning of the Clone Wars. In fact, it's really before the Clone Wars or even start really raging. Like
really
the Jedi in the beginning of the story aren't even officially real members of the military, right? Like they kind of like they're called generals, but it's not until much later in the story that they are actually brought in as true soldiers.
Yeah.
And that conflict, that feeling, like most of the Jedi are kind of step in line, but with Mil Alibeth, this Jedi youngling, really brings a forefront of like, man, why was everybody just so cool with this?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that she's a really good perspective on like some of this stuff and what everyone's feeling and how like in this time period there is a I don't know what the word is I want to use, but they're pushing for Padawans to be pushed further into knighthood so that they can become soldiers and become commanders and stuff. So like they're trying to get these Jedi Padawans to be soldiers, and it's like there's other aspects that Jedi can be, and they're meant to be peacekeepers, but
And peacekeepers, by definition, they have this feeling of like neutrality in a way. But neutrality being a pretty big theme in this book as well.
Yeah. With Cato Nemodia being like the main set that we go to, and they're wanting to be a neutral system, right?
I thought that was so cool, honestly, because when I think of neutrality, I think of Mandalore and the systems that Mandalore represents, which you do get to see a little tiny bit of Duchess Satine in here too.
Oh yeah,
which is cool. But
I was honestly surprised how much they mentioned her.
Me too.
Like, this is great. I love this.
Yeah, and she is part of my favorite part of the entire book, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, neutrality. The fact that they chose, or Mike Chen, we should say Mike Chen is the author of this book. This is his first Star Wars book. I don't know if you read the acknowledgement or the thing at the end. Is really.
If they didn't talk about the audiobook, I missed it.
No, but actually, you know what? This is the best time probably to talk about it because I really enjoyed the book and I really liked his style, especially being the first book I've read in a while. But he has at the end here. Let me see. It's pretty decently long acknowledgments, but I like the last one because he's talking about struggling with. I kind of have I have different things that I'm doing, but now I have the chance. Like I could write a Star Wars book, specifically like he was a prequel fan, a prequel Star Wars book, and he says, finally, when my agent called with this offer, I hesitated because I was already under contract while dealing with my day job and our pandemic parenting difficulties. My wife, Mandy, pulled me aside and said, "Do it. We will find a way to make it work. I love you. I know."
That's always good.
Yeah, like I can imagine that feeling of like, do I do this? Like I have responsibilities, and then like the people you're responsible for, it's like you do it. Yeah,
do this right now.
So that was really, really, really cool.
Those are like those ideas when you hear like an actor who was up for a role and got called for this or that, and was like, I don't know about that, and their kid's like, Dad,
right?
Do that, you know?
Fucking be Dumbledore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I'll do that. All right.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so what I was wanting to say was that I thought it was really cool that Mike Chen picked Cato Nemodia as the neutral system because I did what some of these characters accused the Republic of, as I've written off the entire species as like, well, they're the Trade Federation, and we know Lot Dodd, and we know Newt Gunray and Rune Hako and Dulce Dauphine, those characters that we see in the movies, and they're worms.
Sure. And
Qui-Gon Jinn, a Jedi I very much respect. He's like, these Federation types are cowards. Mm-hmm. And I applied that to the entire species, and I'm the problem.
Yeah, a Jedi saying that, you know? No, that was one of my favorite things about the book is just the portrayal of Cato Nemodia and the Nemoidians. And,
the culture. I love the culture.
Right? Like, I thought it was really cool. Like, even the beginning when we're talking to I think is his name. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't necessarily seem bad. He's listening to Count Dooku and Palpatine and the Jedi and stuff, and they're trying to come to, like, an agreement. Yeah. But he doesn't seem like he's trying to sneak in something sinister or anything. Yeah. And it's like, this is different. And then you meet Roog, actually, in, like, the first chapter or the prologue or whatever, and it's different having that being like a focus where it's like this person isn't trying to do anything bad. They're trying to be loyal and help their planet, and that's what they care about. And it was just, it felt so different rather than it being about money. It was about like people and safety and not wanting to be a part of the war. And I really enjoyed a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. No, me too. It's interesting that again, you got to read it. So whenever the audiobook would do the dialogue for the Nemodians, what did they sound like?
I don't remember it having like an accent, like from the
an accent that a lot of people weren't super happy with.
Sure, yeah.
Whenever that movie came out.
Yeah. No, but, I don't remember him doing that. There was some stuff like he kind of did like a Yoda, and it was pretty good. And his Anakin was his Obi-Wan I liked the best. His Mace Windu sounded less like Samuel L. Jackson and a little bit more like almost like Morgan Freeman.
Gotcha.
But I mean, it was really cool though to listen and hear like some of the way he would change his voice. It would change it enough to where I wasn't confused on who he was talking as, which is always good.
I find myself when I'm reading, which is one of the reasons I prefer actually reading than audiobook, is that like I like to color in the lines myself, But it took me a bit to stop doing that for Nemodians because I kept like in my head would be like, we don't know that right now. It doesn't matter, know. Sure. And I'm like, I don't think that's what they really want this person to sound like. But it got easier for Kitar, I should say that later down the line.
Yeah,
But
that's just how like every Nemoidian, even like in
That's,
Clone
yeah.
Wars and all of it, that's kind of
Yeah.
the sound they have, and that's just how they speak, and it's like I'm sure like you can tag it, especially in the movies, as like, well, what were they targeting here? But then I feel like once you get into
Yeah.
like this is what this culture's like,
True.
it has to just feed into being like it's
Yeah.
not meant to be a racist
It's-
anything. It's meant
it's
to be
not.
like a character.
It's it's one of those things where it's like, so it's okay that all the bad guys have British accents, but like these guys can't have this accent or this accent or this accent.
Sure.
That's race, So there's just things like that.
Yeah.
That are like still in me when I'm reading off the page. So, but I did find myself, as I grew to respect the characters and the race more, not doing that as I read.
Yeah.
Especially Roog.
Which I think is really cool for
Yeah.
like a species that I think a lot of people have written off as bad guys, being like, look at this a little bit more and look at it a little differently. So I really like that.
Yeah.
Also, I really like in the storyline of it. One of your favorite things from episode 2 is in this book, which is Detective Obi-Wan.
Oh, Detective Obi-Wan.
Right?
Yes.
Which I was like, when we started off and I was going through it and stuff, I'm like, Eric's gonna really like this aspect.
Yeah.
Even to the point of like, well, we need some information. Who do we go see?
Dex.
Yeah.
That is one voice that I, with complete and utter abandon, was Obi-Wan, old buddy, in my head. And yeah, it was fantastic. Like they had this small not side story, but background that that Dex and Obi-Wan kind of had a history as younger men,
Yeah.
and that he's this information broker. I kind of just thought like, he just kind of hears some stuff, but he's retired information broker.
It's like he used to do stuff. And
Yeah.
now he's like, you know what? I want to run a diner.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. Like all of these nefarious people and government, people, everyone needs to eat. And they all have to talk to the good old Dexter Jester in it. So
especially they want that 6-layer cake or whatever it was.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love when like Dex is like, well, what you gonna pay me?
Yeah.
He's like, have some more cake. He's like, you got me now. So no, that was a fun moment. And also Dex had a little knowledge of being like, how about that one person, like
Right.
where's she at it?
Yeah.
And like talking
No,
about Satine a little bit.
I love that. There's a lot in this book. There's a lot of sets. Like there is Obi-Wan and Anakin, of course. There is Roog and Katar, a kind of master and apprentice. But then there's also Anakin and Padme. There's Obi-Wan and Satine. There's Anakin and Palpatine. There's Obi-Wan and Dex, right?
Yeah.
Like Obi-Wan isn't going to go and tell all the Jedi all his deepest, darkest secrets, but he told someone. He told Dex, and Dex, like, even though it was relevant, still was like, hey, did you see this HoloNet thing? Kind of like prodding at him a little bit, because he still has that, one of my favorite parts of episode 2, Dexter's line where he's like, you Jedi, you get lost in these details. You forget the difference between knowledge and wisdom, and that's very much in his scenes in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I really like that Dex showing up. I also just enjoyed following Obi-Wan around. Like, one is he has to like try to figure out what a solution to not sending Palpatine to Cato Neimoidia is.
Yes,
and
just to set it up too, like there was it's the beginning of the Clone Wars. Things are about ready to pop off, and there's a terrorist attack at Cato Neimoidia.
Yeah.
The city of, I have it written down, Zara. The Katsura district, the entire, and if you don't know Cato Neimoidia, it's this giant planet that between these huge mountains are literally like city bridges that hang upside down.
It's kind of like a like hammocks, but holding cities instead. Yeah,
it kind of is. It's a they kind of develop the Neimoidian culture a little bit more, where they're a lot more artistic. They are risk assessors. So they're always just trying to assess and measure what the risk is, and they must have done it very well if they think that doing this is fine.
Yeah.
Well,
and it doesn't seem like they have a lot of these issues, and this one was like a rare, like, what happened here?
Sure.
And like Roog in the very beginning coming across all that, and like the chaos of like what happened, what's going on. A bomb went off. Oh, 2 bombs went off.
Sure.
Wait, a building collapsed. No, wait, the city. Like, what's going on? And like it goes through like the stress and the fear until like now it's clear of what happened, and they see the destruction and what occurred and everything. And it's It's a scary moment of starting off this war, you know?
I talked about, like, the sets. Like, you had Obi-Wan, Anakin, you have Rugen, you have Katar. They feel so, like, the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ruga's obviously the kind of weary, experienced mentor, and Katar is Anakin.
Sure.
Anakin from a different world with no special ability, just passion and fear and vengeance.
Yeah. Well, he buys into there's I think one chapter that's focused on like Ventress.
Yeah.
And that's Ventress and Katar, and he is being kind of fed stuff by her and manipulated, you know. And
if the set of Sidious and Anakin, there's also another set of Asajj Ventress and Katar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think she's ever really been as shrewd in the Clone Wars as she was here.
Okay. I can see
Especially because she had to be kind of under wraps, not, playing the hand that she's actually a Force adept, that she can wield lightsabers. She's very much what Dooku, I feel like, does a lot in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Usually she shows up like as an assassin, not as like, let me show up here and manipulate some things and be careful and help out and whatnot for my side, you know?
Yeah.
So, no, I agree. And I just like that having, like, she's introduced in the Clone Wars, but when that happens, there's like Ventress, you know?
Sure.
And they're aware of her. So having that moment where it's like, who is this agent? And they don't know, is like, it's cool to see that kind of stuff. So.
And, she's introduced truly, if you barring like a visual medium, in the 2003 Clone Wars animated series that we actually just recently watched. You watched a lot of it for the first time recently. The book does a couple different things where it canonizes certain moments. Did you notice that?
Yeah, there's one especially that I found out that when listening to my audiobook, it has like clips/bookmarks, and I can like note them of what they are.
Okay.
And there's one that I had where I'm like, oh, what's this? And I put it in there.
Sure.
So there's a few of those in there, but I only really know of one.
So the ones that I noticed was Coyote Mundi had recently just been attacked by General Grievous.
Okay.
That did happen in the end of the first volume of the Clone Wars. We had Mace Windu, who stared down a whole field of super battle droids
on Dantooine.
That
was the one that when that happened, I was like, wait, what? And I
Yeah.
rewound it and listened to it again. I'm bookmarking this one. That's cool.
Yeah. So I thought that one was cool too. There was one more, but right at this moment I can't quite remember what it was. But there was one more that was like, I'm pretty sure they're talking about this moment.
Gotcha.
But I don't remember it right now.
Was it? You were talking about Ventress. Was it Ventress related or something? Or
I
didn't know if that's what sparked it.
Well, it only sparked it just because, like, Ventress is kind of introduced to
Gotcha.
Dooku there. We don't get that, so there's no reason it didn't happen. But
sure,
saying?
There's a few things where I'm like, okay, well, I felt the Clone Wars were happening during those animations. But if you want to take like those stories, which are legends now, I guess, taking those, like, well, this could still happen, even if like they weren't part of the Grand Army yet or anything. So I thought that was really cool having
and while it's
the
fun,
Mace Windu one at least.
While it's fun, you have those moments. Very clearly, the battle on Yavin 4 does not happen in canon now, right? Because Anakin and Ventress would have never met.
No, this actually
though
her
like fan blade ship was.
Yeah,
that's what I think. Maybe it was the fan blade ship.
Yeah,
that's right.
This one really kind of covers like their first kind of encounter and what that's like, as opposed to like the Yavin fight and whatnot. But I still thought it was really good. I will say, like, I don't know how most of Star Wars books are. This one doesn't have like a ton of like crazy action scenes or anything in it.
No,
but I thought that some of the stuff that it did do was really putting me in the headspace of these characters. And one of the things
I actually kind of wanted to go finish before.
No, I was just saying, like, one of the things, like, when I was thinking about like the transition from Episode 2 to the Clone Wars. It's like, well, what's it like? Not just the transition for like the universe going into an army and a war and all this stuff, right? But the idea of what's it like for Obi-Wan and Anakin to no longer be student and teacher, but to transition to being more like peers, right? Where it's like, whoa, wait, Anakin, you did what? Now I have to reprimand you. It's like, no, he's a peer. I should listen to him. What does he have to say? And even like there's several times when Obi-Wan's like, well, my Padawan, my partner, like my associate here, not my student. Like, there's that idea, and I really enjoyed like seeing and hearing that kind of ideas for them. Like that's a transition for them, and also the for me, the transition for Anakin, like when I was listening to it, and it may have been the way the guy did
the voice
for Anakin and stuff too, possibly. But I don't know if you had this while you were reading or anything. But I started off picturing him more of Hayden Christensen in episode 2. But by the end of the book, I realized that I was hearing him more as Matt Lanter, Anakin. And I don't know if the guy was doing that on purpose when he was reading it, or if it was just like me subconsciously kind of like putting that in there. But like through this book, I feel like I was like, all right, Obi-Wan, more of that, and changed more into like a, what's going on, Snips? Like more of that kind of style of like Anakin. And I was like, that was crazy how I kind of transitioned through that.
That's interesting because I did the same thing, but you ever watch like that gif of a train, and if you want it to go this way, it goes that way, and you want it to go that way, it goes that way?
Sure, yeah.
Kind of the same thing where like I found myself being like Hayden, and then next line, Matt, and then Hayden.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kind of like, I would like imagine this as a, in my mind's eye as live action, and then there's other times where I'm clearly imagining this as an episode of the Clone Wars.
Sure, yeah. So, no, I really like that. Like, there's a lot of like that where it's, the transition is what I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And also like talking about getting into their heads. I never really noticed it until this one, which maybe I didn't think about it as much in the Ahsoka novel or whatnot when I went through that, but the feeling of what it's like internally using the Force. Like you don't get that as much in the movies and the shows and stuff, but like there's a few moments when like Obi-Wan's running and stuff, and he's like talking about how like exhausted he feels, but needing to pull on the Force to be able to make like a jump, or what his choices are and what he's gonna do, and like I'm already exhausted, but I could probably do this, or I take a gamble on this and I go this way and don't waste my energy and whatnot. And like just some of those elements, I'm like, I don't feel like I get that when I'm watching Obi-Wan be like, we got to jump, and then they just make a big jump,
Yeah.
I'm not sensing like, here's how it feels of what they have to pull on or how tired it really makes them or any of that. And I thought that was cool.
It's definitely the strength of just the written word.
Yeah.
Being able to go anywhere you want to, but not necessarily see everything you want to see. Star Wars is such a visual and audible medium for me. Now, the audiobook probably had sound effects, and
they have some music. They have sound effects and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have any of that. I'm just kind of building it in my head, which I really enjoy because I can kind of like embellish a lot with that. But it doesn't have John Williams, and it doesn't have those performances. It's one of those things where like I read Lord of the Rings before I watched Lord of the Rings, right? So I had in my mind's eye what characters looked like and sounded like. And then I watched Lord of the Rings, and now I can't go back to reading Lord of the Rings the same exact way.
Sure, yeah.
I have
now you're putting in that music yourself, and you're seeing like...
Yeah, I definitely do that. But I should say, like, I've never read a Star Wars book that had got me as, like, excited for what is happening as a movie or a television show has, whereas books get me so much more into a character's headspace.
Yeah.
There's a moment in this book, there's a bunch of moments in this book, honestly.
Sure.
But there's one moment where I've never liked Padme more.
Oh, yeah?
I love just their, like, date that they go on.
Honestly, that was one of my favorite things I had, was that I know, like, in the movies and stuff, and even in Clone Wars, they kind of touch on it a little bit, but, like, probably, honestly, no one wants to sit and watch a romance story between the two of them in the movies or whatnot,
It's
like,
not the best part of the movie.
Right? Like, I'm sure, like, we don't need a rom-com between Anakin and Padme, but
They even kind of mention that in the book, too, at one point. You remember there's a part in the book where he's like, we were just so cringe and just saying all this shit. I don't know what we were saying. I was like, dude, I know what you're doing, Mike.
It's funny, yeah. He's like, it's like reflecting on being like, man, we were just young and dumb.
We were just kids a month ago.
Yeah. But no, I enjoyed their date and that aspect of it.
I
feel like
too.
I enjoyed it in the book where I wouldn't have enjoyed that like as a Clone Wars episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was in a fantastic headspace reading that, and I got kind of emotional, like how Anakin sees Padme, because they're not the same at all. He looks at the situation, he sees, how would I get out of this if I was in a dangerous situation, and is it amazing that I'm spending time with this beautiful woman who's my wife that I love, but she's looking at things and she's seeing, how could I help that person? How could I practically do something positive to help that person, or the person that person is connected with, or the person that person is employed by? Like, and Anakin, I just loved Anakin looking at her and realizing, like, that's what makes her so special. And I love that Anakin, especially in this book, wrestling with becoming a Jedi Knight. He's no longer a Padawan. he kind of, other than just, being known as the chosen one, doesn't have a real true barometer or identity to himself in a way.
Sure.
He's looking at three people. He looks at Padme, he looks at Palpatine, he looks at Obi-Wan to be like, those three people, if I can mix them together, would be my favorite person.
Yeah.
In a way, he has a moment where he's like, it's Padme and then the other stuff that I'm always interested in. And some of that other stuff, sometimes I'm more interested in what Palpatine's doing. I'm more interested in lightsaber fighting or Obi-Wan. But it's always Padme at the top.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool passage. But yeah, I love their date. It was one of my favorite parts.
Well, I like that, like, it was in the under, like, levels of Coruscant, but she, like, took him to get, like, food that was, like, reminding him of Tatooine and
that was
stuff.
so
And I was
cool.
like,
Like,
that's
he's
just so sweet,
his moment where he's like, of course she planned all of this.
Yeah.
Like, it, like, stacked on stacked on stacked, right? In terms of, it's like, if you are batting out of your league, this is the type of date you take a girl on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it felt like.
Like,
but that's just her.
They were watching, like, pod races and stuff, too, which I thought were cool. And then it all, like, culminates with, like, you want to go park the speeder somewhere? I was like, okay, cool.
I really like that moment. And to pair with that moment, I'll just go out and say it, because why not? We can just Badonkagonk. We can say whatever we want. My favorite part of the entire book is Obi-Wan in space alone, traveling to Kea Nemodia, and allows himself this brief second or moments of imagining what would it be like if he did leave the Order and he was with Duchess Satine, and then pulling back. I love the way that Mike Chen makes it sound like he lets those feelings hit and then wash away, right? Yeah. But for a moment, he doesn't let it wash away, and he
sits in it.
He enjoys it, and then he immediately thinks Anakin would get a kick out of this. Because they really did even to this, like, Obi-Wan knows what's going on. Not the details, but he knows Anakin and Padme are a thing.
Yeah.
And he allows himself to, this is Brotherhood. He allows himself to do what Anakin does and just, like, what if I entertain that thought? And I love that one of his first thoughts after doing that is, like, Anakin would have gotten a kick out of that, and thank God he's not here.
Yeah.
That's my favorite moment of the whole book.
In the whole book?
Yep.
No, I like that, too. And I mean, in the book, I think it's a little bit before that when he sees Anakin and he's like, well, what's he looking at? Why is he walking differently? Yeah. Like, I like how they described at one point, like, usually he walks like he's chasing after something. Like,
with purpose.
He's got, like, his shoulders further than his feet, so he's going that way. Yeah. And then I thought in my head, I'm like, that kind of works with Vader and stuff, too. Like, he always walks with purpose. He's going that way and stuff. But this one was like he was squared up more and looking forward, and, like, you see Padme chasing after him and stuff. And it was just, like, interesting hearing from Obi-Wan's perspective of, like, how he's seeing this and what he's thinking about it, and how he's like, there's definitely something going on, and he lets it happen. And he's like, maybe I should say something to Anakin, or maybe I should say something to the council, but I'm not going to do either one of those things. I'll let it be. Yeah. And that's one of those kind of moments where it's like, should he have said something? Would that have changed the course of all kinds of stuff? But that's one of the things where it's like you're seeing the moments when things could have been different, and what could have changed, but they weren't, and this is how things fell out because of it. And a mixture of that is because of the bond they had, how much he trusts Padme as being a good influence in his life, how much he trusts Anakin as being, like, the right person, the chosen one, listening to Qui-Gon, like, they mention Qui-Gon lots of times in this book about, like, Obi-Wan being like, what would Qui-Gon think about this? How would he solve Kea Nemodia? How, all those kind of things.
To a point, they mention it so much to a point where it feels like Anakin actually, senses his presence.
They did kind of have at least one moment where I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm trying to think of what it was, but I can't remember it right now. But yeah, there was definitely a moment where I'm like, that's interesting to have it where it's like, I know that he knew him. We met him in episode 1. He didn't know him too long, but, like, how much is Qui-Gon around, and, like, what does he feel? Because, like, in episode 2, you have that moment where he goes to kill, like, the sand people, and you have the Anakin, thing, and it's like, what's he hearing of that? Is Qui-Gon there? Is he kind of thinking about Qui-Gon in the moment, or is Qui-Gon reaching out trying to stop him? And there's definitely some interesting aspects there of, like, what does Anakin feel about Qui-Gon, or is Qui-Gon trying to reach him? So no, I do like a lot of
another great moment with Obi-Wan realizing, like, how much Qui-Gon. What's the word that he used when it came to Anakin? He, like, believed in him. How much he believed in him, but then he also realized how much he believed in Obi-Wan as well. Like, he gave Obi-Wan what he thought was the most important thing to do, and that will not be the last time someone calls on Obi-Wan to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that whole thing too with like Obi-Wan thinks about him a lot, to the point where at one point he's like, I need to do this like Anakin.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like me, like I need to be more spur of the moment and solve like getting out of this situation and stuff. And then like now I have a plan, and here's what the plan will be. And I just like that. Like this book's called Brotherhood. There's a lot of time that Anakin and Obi-Wan aren't together.
A lot.
But
interestingly, a lot of times where, like, especially in Obi-Wan's case, like, realizing how much he relied on that kid.
Yeah, and like the tie and the bond that they have already, and it's getting that transition to where, like, well, when you watch the Clone Wars and you see how they interact and what they do there, and it's changed from like a, I don't know, like a struggle of like master and student to being more of like, we're not, they're not the same. They have different ways of how they operate and stuff too, but like the bond and what they have and how like, well, when those two are together, somehow just everything works out. Yeah. Even though they get into some crazy situations, these two just complete everything they need to complete.
They do, but there's like, and even though they do spend a lot of time not together, they're like, the theme of the book is about those two, because Obi-Wan is primarily, having a lot of situations with Rogue and Qatar, right? And he sees in that relationship his own relationship with Anakin.
Yeah.
Anakin, it's hilarious, but he's put on babysitting duty pretty much.
Yeah.
But it so mirrors what Obi-Wan went through at that point of his life. Obi-Wan was immediately brought to become a Jedi Master and immediately got a Padawan. Anakin, because of the Clone Wars, immediately become a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
And then he gets a pseudo Padawan in a way.
Yeah.
And, like, I love Ahsoka. Love it. But by the time I got to the end of this book, I was like, I really like Mill.
I definitely got to the point where I'm like, I hope she shows up again somewhere. Like, I really like the character and the Force, the way she described the Force and the way her powers worked with it, and what she sensed and everything.
It's a very interesting thing that we should cover. Like, Mill has an attunement to the Force that's unlike most Jedi. Not any, because we do find out that she gets to be with someone that understands her a bit more. Yeah. Right? With this other Jedi Master she ends up with. But she has the ability to sense pain. Yeah. And not just physical pain, but emotional, sadness, the effects of war. That's how she sees things. And I weirdly kept thinking about Smallville and Superman, how Clark, especially in like Man of Steel, like Clark can't control his powers, so he's at school and he just sees skeletons, or he hears terrible things at night because he can't control his abilities. Like, she was very much kind of like that. And I like that Anakin, who has his own special attunement to the Force, kind of grabbed onto that and almost didn't let go. Yeah. He
knew a way of helping her, which I like too, because her powers were like emotion and feeling all that. Yeah. And I think the second chapter or something like that, when they're doing the knighthood, right? Yeah. Which I thought was cool to have a moment with the ceremony to be like, here's the knighting of Anakin that we go through. But when Mace Windu's talking, Anakin is thinking about how he sounds and does he seem to care there? Yeah. And
do you think he really cares?
He talks about having like a more attunement to emotions than Jedi typically have. Yeah. So I like that because he has that too. He's helping Mill, who is like very in tune with emotions, and like that's like one of her main. And it's cool to have different fluctuations of power because we've had different Jedis where it's like, how many Jedi can touch things like Quinlan and be able to see like history of that item and stuff, like there have been special powers for individuals before.
There's certain Jedi that are like a lot better at mind tricks than others. Yeah.
So it's cool to have like, well, here's this young initiate. Like, she's not a Padawan. Like, she's like barely a youngling. They don't have sabers because they were supposed to go to the gathering, and she just kind of blew that all off, And I just thought like there was some really cool like moments between Anakin and Mill of like, I can see why he would be good with a Padawan in the way that he's treating her, even though he doesn't want this at all, And I really like that.
Yeah, I liked. Thought it was interesting to have this young Padawan that's not excited for her lightsaber, that doesn't want to go on the gathering, and this was probably the biggest Easter egg of the entire book. But we saw Master, I think it's Huyang.
You're going to bring that up, aren't you? I know exactly what you're going to bring up. Good.
No, Master Huyang.
It's Professor Huyang.
Professor, yes. Yeah. The ancient droid who arrived at the Jedi Temple in a blue box.
Sure. And it wasn't until this
when I saw that blue box, I'm like, what the fuck? Why were you telling me this, Mike Chen? Is what I thought.
It's great.
And then like I went 2 paragraphs down and I thought, blue box. David Tennant. He just made a Doctor Who reference.
It happened. I was listening. I was actually in that moment. I was on the treadmill.
Yeah.
When I was listening to the book, and honestly, they were talking about him, and whenever he pronounced Professor Hu Yang, I was like,
Hu Yang.
Professor Hu. Oh my gosh!
What? Really?
And I was like, "That's." I
Yang.
never even because the way he pronounced it, I never thought about it in Clone Wars.
Did I know that? Is that a thing that I knew and then forgot?
But Professor Hu Yang instead of Doctor Who, and I was like, "That's fun." And then they said they don't even know where he came from. There's talk that he came 1,000 years ago in a blue box. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're making more Who references. That's great."
Yeah.
And he's voiced by David Tennant in the Clone Wars.
He is. Who played the 10th Doctor, for those who don't know.
So I just, like, that whole moment there, I was like, I caught that too, and I was like, oh my gosh, what an Easter egg to have. Not even tied to Star Wars necessarily, but, like, I never even thought about Professor Who.
Me either.
You know? And I was like, that's fun. I like
that. No. Now I feel like an idiot, and Badonkagonk should take over.
So, yeah, I just thought that would be really fun.
Yeah, you can take over reading. Well, maybe he can read the next book that we're going to be doing. We're going to be announcing another book later, too.
Sure, yeah. Which actually, the next book that we want to do, we're talking about doing a poll between two books.
You just want to start that poll now?
We could start the poll now.
Before we get back into Brotherhood, we're going to be talking about two possible books that we're going to be having. And you, the live Twitch viewer, is going to decide right now. So if you're watching this later, you got to make sure you get here live because you're going to be able to do it. So, Aaron, we have two books that they can vote on.
So which book should we cover? One of the books is I believe the first, at least released, of the High Republic era, which is called Light of the Jedi.
Light of the Jedi, yep.
Which we've talked about, like, getting into some
I've been wanting to get into the High Republic so much.
And, like, I haven't done anything with those yet, so it'd be interesting to dive into that. The other one, though, and it's been mentioned to me by a few people and stuff, is Dark Disciple.
Dark Disciple.
Which is I don't really know too much. I've seen the cover, so I know of, like, 2 characters involved in the book. But other than that, I don't know what else it really covers. So I think that would be a fun one to do as well.
As the time of recording right now, we still have 1 episode of Kenobi, the Disney Plus show, to watch. But when a character was referenced, I was like, crap, I got to read Dark Disciple.
Yeah, sure.
Though I know some, like, basic stuff about it, but not too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have those 2 that literally the Twitch audience is going to be putting in a poll right now. We're going to be finding out later in the show which one won. But for now, let's get back to Brotherhood.
Yeah, if you've read them already, let us know which one and vote there. And if you haven't, pick which one you'd rather read first. So, yeah, there's just that whole Professor Hu Yang. That was one of my.
That's a pretty good one.
I had a whole section that was like Easter eggs that I caught or like canon tie-ins and stuff, and that was one that was like, it's not really anything important to Star Wars, but it was just a fun like Easter egg that tossed in there.
I'll tell you one of mine that I really enjoyed was one of my favorite Star Wars book of all time is the novelization of Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
I think it's a fantastic novelization. I'm not sure what all that's extra in there is still deemed canon or anything like that. I'm not really sure of the specifics, but I think it's Matthew Stover that did that. But he mentions the Star Dragon inside Anakin's heart.
Yeah, Sun
the
Dragon?
Sun Dragon.
The Sun
yes,
Dragon?
He mentions this dragon, and it's done so well there. And I was like, okay, one, that's either the craziest parallel thinking I've ever seen when Mike Chen wrote this book, or 2, is he directly referencing that? And it was a thing that he's directly referencing that literary device from the Revenge of the Sith.
I did see, I think it was a tweet from Mike Chen when I was like, I was looking at something, and when I was looking through stuff, I found like Mike Chen talking about stuff, and I was because I don't know anything about the author or what else he's done.
Sure.
And one of the tweets that he had been involved with like. He has a lot of tie-ins to some different things. Okay. And they're not just like movie prequel tie-in things either. So I'm sure he probably did read like that's one of the prequel books. But I'm sure it's one of my favorite things he pulled from. You know,
I absolutely love that. And whenever that started happening, it made me excited, but also like the passages from that book when that stuff happens is very emotional for me. So like it didn't quite get to any of the levels that book pushed me to, but just referencing it was like this sleeping dormant dragon.
Sure.
And I love that it tied in with this story about what Shmi Skywalker would tell Anakin, and he shared that with some like with Padme, like the closest person in his life, and him sharing that with this youngling was so profound for me.
Yeah.
Like he truly, truly cares about this girl. I thought that was fantastic.
Which is great. I love seeing Anakin care so much. Yeah. And it's so sad to like push where it goes in the future too, you know? I really enjoyed it.
It really is, because like one thing I was thinking about, I was kind of like, this is a weird direction to take Anakin. I thought like he's going to be like babysitting, and then, Mill ends up going on his mission with him, or unsanctioned mission. Yeah. As is Anakin is wont to do. But it really got me thinking of like what this was doing to Anakin, because he's just like Obi-Wan. He becomes a Jedi Knight and immediately responsibility is given to him, a lot of it, and that includes the next generation, right? So he has a hard time with all these kids, and the young ones, Master Skywalker, and they're tugging on his on his coat, and then he develops
playing with lightsabers.
I know,
and shit.
exactly. Put that down. He's like
dangerous,
kicking him, trying to get and then he gets close with Mill. He gets very close with Mill, and then she, spoilers, but she leaves. She wants to leave. She doesn't want to be a Jedi Knight at the end of this.
Well, I like how she's confronted with like, they all want lightsabers and they want to fight in this war, and I don't want that.
That's not what Jedi should be.
Yeah, she's like, there's a higher meaning of what we're supposed to do.
She's like, I'm sorry, aren't we peacekeepers? Why do we need swords?
Yeah.
I get it, but what I was just saying, I like the evolution of Anakin goes from a child to a man very quickly, to a responsible man, to a guardian for this young girl, losing her, and then what does Yoda say at the end of the Clone Wars movie? Right, like they give Anakin a Padawan. I'm supposed to be Obi-Wan's Padawan, but no, Yoda said I'm Anakin's Padawan, and Yoda says, the challenge here isn't to train this kid; it's to let this kid go. Yeah, because he's already had to kind of see this girl go that he was proud of, yes, but sad as well. And I can imagine like the what if version of the Star Wars story, where if Anakin didn't turn and he did have children, like what he would have learned from Mill, what we would have learned from Ahsoka, and then what that would have informed his life with Luke and Leia growing up, being with Padme, being a family, everything that he wanted. He had a moment in this book where he talks about like, I just want to leave. I don't want to do this. Yeah. We could just go be happy. But the woman I love, Padme, would not be the woman I love if she did that.
Yeah. No, I love the toying with those ideas, because Anakin and Padme, also Satine and Obi-Wan, like they toy with the ideas of like, what if we did just go off and be on our own and stuff? Like, what would the galaxy be like? What what the things that Satine does? What if Obi-Wan and her would have just went off and done something? Yeah. Would they have done more for the galaxy? Would they have done less for the galaxy? Like what would the galaxy? Because they're key players in a lot of different things. So it's interesting to have those like elements there
during that sequence. I don't know why, but my mind kind of trailed off a little tiny bit, and I had to like, you do that thing where like you read, or at least for me, I do it.
You go back and read again.
I read the whole paragraph. I'm like, shit, I didn't get any of that. I gotta read it again. But during that sequence when he was kind of imagining himself, like, what if I did leave and went with Satine? I wrote this whole story in my head where like Satine, like, what, the whole thing about like peace and neutrality and all that stuff, fuck it, and she like, and she literally becomes Mandalore.
Oh, she becomes Mandalorian?
And I was like, I love the idea so much. I started like just like sketching a design of like, what is her look?
Satine Mandalorian.
Mandalorian armor. And then if Obi-Wan left with her, Obi-Wan could be like her right hand, and he could have Mandalorian armor with a lightsaber. I was like, this is fucking badass, man. They need to get me in on Visions. When is Visions going to be trying to get the Ohio culture out there, Because I was writing a whole story of like Mandalore Kryze and her right hand Kenobi.
That could be fun,
but it's not real.
Alternate.
Anyway, getting back to it though, I did think, like, did you have a favorite new original character in this book?
Favorite of the new characters probably is Mill.
Is it Mill?
I really liked Roog though.
I think Roog is mine.
Just the aspects that she had with like, just the loyalty and the way like she doesn't really know Obi-Wan,
the love for her planet,
but like
for me,
but she like he doesn't seem bad, and she's willing to like, okay, Kitar is going too far, and I can see that, so I'm gonna side with Obi-Wan, and I like being in her headspace whenever she's like having to take sniper shots and different things too, and I also really like towards the end when it's Anakin and Obi-Wan are like trying to escape, and they're fighting off all these droids and stuff, and all of a sudden just like sniper fire just starts shooting.
Yeah.
And like they're like, where'd that come from? They don't know. So like Obi-Wan just kind of like, thank you, wherever you are.
Yeah. No, I think Rue is my favorite just because it's the reason I love the Rogue One moment when Cassian says, "Hey, we're going with you, Jin." Like the Republic or the rebellion leadership, they all say no, but we have done terrible things for this cause, and we are not going to stop. We're going with you. We believe in you. I feel like I felt that way with Rogue. She was an ex-Special Forces, right?
Yep.
I don't know. She wasn't current Special Forces.
No, she had been.
Because there was a thing in the beginning where they brought everybody in for this disaster.
Yeah.
But she
was
talks
like a
about
guard now.
Yeah. But she talks about she has all this experience. She, the truths that Obi-Wan deals with, like people like me make those truths.
Yeah, I thought that was
we
an interesting
make those
conversation.
facts, and sometimes people don't even tell us what to do. Like she was in this like Black Ops thing where like they know what they're supposed to do, what they're not supposed to do, and they sometimes just make decisions. So I just thought it was it's like an alternate Obi-Wan in a way that was raised in a different culture, from a different species, from a different order, but still dealing with the same problems of how do you raise this person that you obviously care for, but they're going down that dark path. I really like that. I think that it's surprising that Rue is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and she's a Nemodian.
Yeah. No,
to bring it all back.
I hope that both of them maybe show up somewhere else or in other books, or whatever the case may be, just to have that aspect.
And Rue got saved at the end, right?
Yeah, I love that moment too, where they're talking about like in the fog, you can't see, and like a line of droids gone, a line of droids gone.
Yeah, right.
It's like what? And like
I was like, man, it's fucking Sauron coming.
Yeah.
What's happening?
And it's like you can see Obi-Wan and Anakin, and these two can do anything, And it was like, oh, this is so cool.
Sure.
I love that. It was such a good moment to be like, I don't know, just her like choosing to stay back. And then, like, I will, take whatever the repercussions are. He may try to brand me a traitor. I have the information I have, and we'll see what happens. But I like that at the end they show up to like, we are going to help you.
I like how Obi-Wan just at one point he puts his life in her hands.
Yeah,
like in terms of trust. Great stuff, and they just met.
Yeah, that was great. I love that so much.
Yeah.
One of the other things I thought was really neat. And I guess this kind of goes with transitioning as well, which like I said before, that's one of the big themes this book covers a lot of. But it's Anakin getting used to his hand, which I thought was interesting. Like in episode 2, it just it gets cut off and he has a new hand. And then episode 3, they don't really discuss it. He just has a metal hand. And even through the Clone Wars, like it's not really like a thing or anything. But in this one, he talks about like, like clenching his fist, and like it's doing the same thing as his other fist is, but there's no emotion in it. There's no feeling. It's just like copying it, and it's interesting hearing his
and it lags behind his natural senses and his natural reflexes, right?
Yeah. So I liked having it like describe what it feels like and how he doesn't accept it, and how eventually when he comes to accept it, it becomes more natural. And I just really like that process.
Rather than trying to wrap himself around that weakness, he can wrap himself around that as a strength.
Yeah.
Which is gonna come in handy much later.
Sure, yeah.
As Darth Vader. But I also really love that that thought process that the author had. But I especially liked that he pointed out that Padme made extra effort to make it feel like this is the most natural thing, like to hold that hand.
Or if it touches her face or whatever, and it's like she doesn't like pull back from it or scared of it or anything.
I thought that was a very loving thing for Padme to do. Even though Anakin kind of saw through it, it's still, I don't know. I'm excited for all the books that we're going to be covering in this show, which will be years in the making. But there's some Padme books that I'm really interested in to check out as well. Yeah. I think it's called The Queen's Gambit is one of them.
Queen Shadow.
Well, I think that both of those. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's Queen Shadow. Here's the thing, though. How many things did you find that you're like, wait, what? Okay, that must be a reference to a book I haven't seen or haven't read.
I mean, there's probably a few things. Yeah. I had a couple. I only had like 2. I was trying to think of like what questions do I have like from when I read this that I'm like, well, this I'm not too sure what the answer is of this, and
Yeah.
this one was confusing. So like one was, and it's more so for this book, but like, who planted the bombs? We didn't really figure that out. I'm assuming it's just like Dooku and Ventress.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like they didn't really like figure it out. They were like, there's a third party, and they kind of went to like the agent was causing problems. But I didn't feel like, did Obi-Wan and Anakin figure it out? You know what I mean?
No, they don't. I think it's left up to subtext that it's Palpatine's directly responsible.
Yeah, like the Sith are like they're.
Yeah.
It's the Clone Wars.
Of
Palpatine's
course.
like manipulating both sides. So I'm like, well, whatever it is.
I mean, I don't think Palpatine was there like,
Sure, yeah.
you know, but whatever he did, he purposely made it so it looked like it was a Republic. He looked like it was a Separatist, using formations and technology from both.
It was like laser bombs from the Separatists.
And then whoever did that, I imagine, is no more.
That could be too. And I didn't think about it that way, where it's like he hired someone to do it, and then Dooku easily could be like, all right, you do this, and then I kill you.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to worry about it.
But we know who plants the other bombs.
The Kitar ones?
Kitar, yeah. Yeah, I was sad to see Kitar go far down, because I mean he's passionate. His story about his parents was heartbreaking.
Sure.
I quite like that Obi-Wan's first the negotiator negotiation fails, but the Jedi see it as a victory. They at least see it as like, this guy deserves this seat. And they also talked about how there's this revolving door of a council seat that Coleman Trebor, who was like the shark guy that
Django shoots.
Yeah,
at Geonosis.
Mm-hmm. So they've been filtering in, but Obi-Wan earns his seat.
Yeah,
with
which
that
I like
failed
that too,
negotiation,
because that wasn't a thing really that was discussed either. You just come into episode 3 and he's a member, and I guess even in the Clone Wars he's just he's a member of it. So I didn't realize that they had like, well, let's try a few people out and see if they work, and then there's like, well, good job on there, and we're gonna move on, So, but no, one of the other things I had that was kind of a question was during the gathering stuff with Mill. Right? When they were leaving, there was a clone named Sister, and I thought that was interesting, and I was more curious on that a little bit. I'm like, wait, her name's Sister, or his name's Sister, or I was like, what? So I don't know what that is. So like that one could be already established because I don't know who that character is.
When I found that, I thought like, whoa, is that like for real? What I'm seeing, is this a trans?
Is it supposed to be like a trans clone?
So I had to go look it up.
Okay.
And yes, this is apparently it's in a different book as well. This is a reference to something that happened in a different book as well.
Okay.
But Sister is a trans clone. And I thought it was a really cool. They mentioned the color that she has on her armor is colors from the trans flag.
Okay. That's okay. That makes more sense then.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever it happened, I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I wonder what that means, because usually like sometimes they have meaning to what their names are, either by like their actions or like fives just had a bunch of fives in there and whatnot. But I was like, why is this clone called Sister, and what's the story of this clone? And that was one. of the ones I
thought it was really cool, and I mean especially the subtext of like the other clones don't care. Like, okay, yeah, you're not brother, you're sister.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was one of the ones I had. And I'll be more curious, I guess, when we get to wherever that's from, that maybe we get to learn a little bit more about that clone, that character and stuff. But but that was when I was sitting back and I was like, what questions do I have about this book? I was like, well, who planted the bombs? That was one. I was like, I'm assuming it's just you tie it to the Sith, and that's just the answer, And then the other one I had was about the sister and stuff. But for the most part, otherwise, like I don't think I had too many other things. Like we had a small cameo by Quinlan.
Very small, yeah.
And I was like, oh, and as soon as it happened, I was thinking about Obi-Wan Kenobi and stuff, and I was like, oh, Quinlan showed up in that, and like all these ties to Quinlan and whatnot. But there's a few other like little like Easter egg canon moments and stuff that I was like, well, these are kind of cool and stuff. But I didn't catch anyone else where I was like, who's that? What's this?
Okay, so I did catch one. I don't know if you remember. They had a mention that Anakin, after, I think it was right after he sees Padme and she touches. So you did see this one?
Yeah. I heard this one when I was listening. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
I know this name.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, he goes and sees Jero Tapal
and
his red-headed Padawan.
Yeah.
So,
when I
Cal
heard
Kestis from
when
Jedi
I heard
Fallen
that
Order.
name, I heard the name Jaro, and I was like, Jaro. was like, I know that name.
Yeah.
So I like
And
Googled it. I Googled it real quick, and I was like, oh!
Yeah, it doesn't say, like, Lasat or Big Giant Purple Dude.
No.
It says Jaro. And I'm like, Jaro DePaul. I know who that is.
Yeah. So, no, I thought that was really cool, too, of, like, actually, it was one of my notes that I went back to, and I listened to it again to make sure I heard it right. But it's just a fun little, like, Easter egg of being like, hey, this little red-haired youngling, who you think that's going to be? You know? And it's like, well, that's cool. Cal may have been there in the moment next to Anakin, you know? So that was cool. And then maybe Cal can show up in some other stuff, or, you know, Tales of the Jedi, or whatever the case may be. Sure. So it was a cool moment there.
Survivor?
That's the sequel coming out.
The sequel coming out that we have all these questions about?
Yeah. No, I like that one, too. I enjoyed we were talking about earlier about the Anakin, like, babysitting kids and stuff like that, too. And I was like, I like that he has to do the gathering, and I pictured it kind of like how in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka had to help these younglings to find their kyber crystals, and kind of ran it with Yoda, because it's like a two-man thing. And Anakin was there with someone. I didn't recognize that name, I don't think. I think there's another, like, Jedi there with him. But I was like, it's cool. Like, he's progressing past the point where, like, they're like, now you're going to help the next generation of, like, Jedi and stuff. And so I like that, because, like, he does it, Ahsoka does it. I was like, I just picture, like, every time a Jedi gets to a certain point, you go help younglings find new
Padawan
crystals, you know?
specifically,
Yeah.
Maybe just a little less scary than the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, Yoda.
You name a lot of things that are really fun. My favorite thing about this book, really ties in with Star Wars Episode 3, which is not necessarily anything specific.
Okay.
But it's just the fact of what this story is. Do you remember in Episode 3, we have Coruscant battle. We have to save Palpatine from Dooku and all that kind of stuff. We get back. It's like, you go talk to the media, basically, right?
Your glorious day with the politicians. Yeah.
During that conversation, and I thought about this afterwards too, of like when I guess it was in the middle of reading it too, but they had that line about like save. You have to think of a way to pay me back for saving you for the 10th time.
For the 10th time,
ninth
master.
time. Nice. That business on Cato Nemodia doesn't count. And I was like, oh my gosh, are they referencing this book of what happens? Because I thought it was so funny to have the moment of like, Obi-Wan's trying to escape from everything that's going on. He's like, I got a plan of what I'm going to do.
He's got a plan. He's got a hell of a plan.
He's like, wait, what's that? And Anakin just like shows up. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm here to save you. It's like, I had a plan. I was fine.
He literally says, this doesn't count.
Yeah, he says it right there. And I think that might have been the moment when I thought about that. I'm like, this doesn't count.
No, the entire time I kept thinking, like, is it going to be that? But then I guess Anakin kind of bailed him out in Cato Nemodia, like the Season 7 of the Clone Wars. You know, there's that, bridge sequence.
Sure.
I guess you could say that's the one that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But no, this one, straight up, Obi-Wan was going to be, like, not fine, but, like his lightsaber was right there. Anakin jumped in front of him. And the lightsaber hit him. It like singed him. It fell to the ground. Like it was gonna be this epic, like, oh my god, look at this, and they just like bumped into each other and dropped shit. Yeah, it was really funny.
No, so like I really like that how it was like Anakin's like, well, I saved you. I showed up. You were needing help. He's like, no, I had a plan, and you came in, and you messed it all up. And it's like that's where that line from that. And I was like, that's fun to have like if that's what they're doing is they're taking like, hey, remember this line? Here's what they're referring to. I had a lot of fun with that in my mind now of like that's what they mean.
Some of the most classic Star Wars books and comics come from, like, hell, Obi-Wan saying, like, oh, your father fought in the Clone Wars. And as kids, we're like, what? The what?
What are those?
And now we get to see, so.
Yep. And then what else did I have here was with we already talked about the Jedis becoming generals by the end, right?
We did, yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting thing, too, where it's like, They're there with the war, and like talking about Mace being on Dantooine, I thought it was interesting that it wasn't initially done, and I never really thought about the Republic probably would have had to sign an order, or, do something to be like they're gonna lead our army. It just kind of like was a thing that
it's a literal act.
I know Jedis do this, so I assume it just happens. I didn't think
a law
about
they have to pass.
Yeah. So I thought that was
I like
in the
that.
very end when they're like they will be generals and Padawans will be commanders and talking.
And
about
it's in that moment they'll actually be given armor.
Yeah, which they get their armor at the end, and I liked was it Mill that walked up to them and they're being like, I don't know if it fits right. What do you like? And they're like talking about their armor and
because
stuff.
I'm never gonna be wearing armor ever my whole life. And then he's literally encased in armor later.
Yeah. So I did really like that, and them getting like their armor and their stuff with that. And it was just some cool like little ties and whatnot to it. But I think I have a couple more things that I thought were neat for Easter eggs or canon tie-ins.
We're going to get into those, and then we'll try to get into some questions before we get too late.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get, especially for Brotherhood, and then maybe for like some other stuff. So if you guys have any questions for Brotherhood, we'll look at those here in a few and talk about some of that stuff real quick.
We'll be revealing the winner of the poll so that everybody can do their homework for next time.
Yes. Also, we've been watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there's definitely been, especially in this last episode that we watched, where like I had in the back of my mind thinking about this book a little bit and the brotherhood between them while watching the Kenobi series and whatnot, and I was like, oh man, it makes it sadder. It does make it sadder.
It makes it pretty sad.
All right, some of the Easter eggs and tie-ins and stuff that I saw. You mentioned Coleman Trebor.
Yep.
He's the one who died on the council. That's who Obi-Wan's replacing and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, once I was like, who is he replacing? Which one's that? And I saw him. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool.
I can go get the action figure if you want.
The action figure?
You have it right over there.
We mentioned several of these already, which is good. Mace Windu and Dantooine. You mentioned some of the other Clone Wars stuff. There was a mention of Shatterpoint by Palpatine.
There was.
Which I was like, ooh, okay, cool. And I thought, I'm pretty sure I read that book like a long time ago. I don't remember too much of it. But I just thought it was a neat thing to like pull from, because I don't feel like you hear about it too often.
You don't. I mean, it's kind of alluded that Mace has that ability, which is much like how Mill can sense pain. She can then turn that into a way of tracking people, or finding safe routes, and then finding ways to triage pain, right, and help it. Mace with Shatterpoint, it's not just like he can go up to this book and find the weak integrity spot, hit it, and it breaks. He can do that with strategy. He can do that with emotions. He can do that with people. And obviously, in the Clone Wars, he does it with like a tank, and he breaks open the thing. But yeah, it's still canon that he has that ability. But to be straight up called out by Palpatine about it is cool.
Yeah, which I thought that was really cool. Two that I had actually came, or at least a lot of my knowledge, it ties to KOTOR, where they had a mention of the Zerka Corporation.
Oh, they did.
Which I thought
that
was
flew
cool.
right over my head. Did you're right.
Yeah, so I was like,
I wasn't
the
thinking
Zerka
about
Corporation.
that.
That's really cool. Another one was like there was like a modified like HK droid at one point in it, and I was like, oh, an HK droid. Okay, that's kind of cool. And I just thought about KOTOR because you have HK there, and he's like, meat bag, and I was like, oh, that was the first thing I went in my head.
Revan's droid, yeah. We had some HK droids. They didn't look like HK-47 or HK-50 or anything, but we had some HK droids in The Mandalorian whenever the Ahsoka, the Jedi. There were some droids in there, and apparently they're HK droids, hunter-killer droids, but they're far and away different.
Very different.
So maybe these ones are more related to those than they are.
That could be
40,000 years ago.
Because like this just kind of talked about it as being like
4,000 years ago. Sorry,
like being a modified HK, and so I don't know exactly what it looked like, but I was picturing like HK-47 or something. So,
and that's the strength of a book. You can picture that.
Picture how you want. Yeah.
You know what's really funny is I really like to, because I'm decent at knowing most of the species in Star Wars. So whenever it says there's a Quarren or
a Bith,
like the average Star Wars fan might not know the exact name of the alien, but I can usually pick it up. But there's times where I'm like, this youngling is a blah, and I'm like, oh, what is that one? I look it up, and the only Wikipedia entry is that a blob was mentioned in Brotherhood, and there's no picture or anything. I'm like, damn it,
what is it?
But I'm almost kind of proud, like, well, at least like all the ones that I had to do that were new, and they don't have like an established look to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
There was one thing you're talking about, like species and stuff, and you're saying about younglings. Like Mill was Zabrak.
Zabrak, yeah.
And there was what was the line? There was something that they referred to where it was talking about like feeling it in like both her hearts or something like that.
2 hearts.
And I was like, I didn't know Zabraks had 2 hearts.
I guess so.
That was a new alien species thing that I learned in this one, where I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's a thing. I just picture them as like just a human, but with horns on their head.
And then there was also one part where Asajj Ventress is like, a Zabrak girl, huh? Like, I have close dealings with Zabraks.
Yeah.
Not really.
Dathomir,
She didn't want to talk about how her species, enslave Zabrak males.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the last one that we haven't talked about that
Okay.
I had was actually, I think it's when Anakin sees Padme and when Obi-Wan's watching them. Actually, right before Jaro, they interact. But the person with her was like Panaka, which was like Captain Panaka's like wife, I think. I looked up the name.
Oh yeah, you're right. There was a Panaka I didn't know.
There was a Panaka there, and I was trying to like find her name and stuff, and I believe she was the wife of Captain Panaka.
Interesting.
And I was like,
Okay.
well, that's kind of neat. So
Yeah.
I just thought that it's a neat little tie to some prequel stuff, and
Yeah.
she wasn't really a big part of it, but she was dropped there as being like with Padme
Interesting.
when they were walking around to do some political stuff and whatnot. So
I like Panaka, but due to studying for trivia, I kind of I dive deep into Panaka, not realizing that there are canon stories of what happens after the Republic becomes the Empire, and he's pretty into the Empire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting.
He's like an Imperial officer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Old Corsi.
Well, those were a few of the little ties to things, and I'm sure there's tons of things that I missed from books or comics or probably even movies and stuff that I just didn't catch. But those are things like whenever like I heard something like that,
Sure.
and sometimes I would pause and like Google like
Yeah.
the name and like and I'd bookmark it and like okay, let me mark this here so I don't forget.
Yeah, me too. I think it was a fun experience getting back into Star Wars reading. I think it was a good jumping in point just because it is a very familiar setting. It's extremely relevant right now with having Anakin and Obi-Wan on screen in what we just saw in Kenobi is like probably a couple months after or before this, right? Is probably what happened.
And it should have been just a little bit before this, that it occurred.
So very relevant, and I just I really enjoyed the process, and I'm looking forward to getting to the next one. But do you want to see if we have any questions?
Yeah, let's look at it. See about a few questions.
Nope.
Oh.
We do have questions.
There are questions.
Okay.
All right. Badonkagonk is going to let us see some questions here. Let's see what we have. Yizing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some of the grossest stuff in the book is seeing how Palpatine has been grooming Anakin when he mentions how he wants the younglings to be comfortable with the clones.
Yeah.
I was so disgusted. What do you think is Palpatine's most evil act?
Yeah, I definitely, that hit me as well, where he's like, he needs to get as many Jedi in front of clones as possible and getting them used to them and feel safe with them. I personally found it kind of interesting and kind of sad as well that the younglings, they are just kids, I mean, yes, they're Jedi and they have these powers and stuff, but they look up to these mentor figures as like, you know everything, and you're going to keep us safe, and Master Skywalker and this other master that was like entertaining them, and like they're taken as babies, it's really fucked up, but they're taken as babies, and a baby needs like touch and contact and love and, a routine and someone constant. They don't have that. They have this ever revolving door of masters and people that come in and play being their parent, but not, and then they're just like thrust into, well, now you're going to need to be a Padawan, and also the Padawans are going to be becoming commanders, and you're going to be thrown into war, that's like the most sad I think I got, just kind of thinking about the youngling's life and compared to my own life. And it makes it seem like Anakin's childhood is almost a blessing. I mean, despite being a slave, he got to have a mother, and he gets to think about that mother.
Yeah,
I thought it was
some of these Padawans.
I thought it was
have
almost
memories.
I thought it was almost a missed opportunity not to have Mill kind of question more about, like, you remember your mother? Like, no one does. Why?
Sure, yeah.
But
Though,
Mill still has.
I mean, maybe they do if they were strong with the Force. Like
True.
There's that line with Leia remembering her mother.
And there's Obi-Wan saying he's like remembers flashes, remembers a baby. Maybe I had a brother, stuff like that.
Yeah,
sure.
No,
but the Palpatine thing, it definitely was. It was pretty gross.
I get you with that. I mean, what's his most evil act? I think it's that he wants to rise to power, so he causes a war that kills how many people.
Yeah.
Like if he's behind an act to destroy that hanging city and the whole district just falls, like how many people died there just to try to like get them to join the Separatists. Like, that wasn't even, like, to win the war, to gain his power. So, like, how many people died over the course of this whole thing? Like, Padawans, Jedi, Separatists, you know, all kinds of people. So,
I mean, the grossest Palpatine is for me is mockery. Like, he mocks you. We talked about this a little bit in our most recent Kenobi reaction, but, like, the Sith have gotten, and Palpatine especially, he's gotten to the point where, like, he doesn't need to fight with a lightsaber. I mean, Mill, she doesn't have a lightsaber crystal, doesn't want to do it, but Palpatine,
he doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it. He can manipulate, and he can, I mean, yeah, and also, he's, like, the best with a lightsaber, you know, but he mocks you when he does it. And he mocks the Jedi, you know, I mean, he tells the truth sometimes about the Jedi and their dogma and and the lies, the fog of lies they tell.
Like, he's not 100% wrong.
No, but he takes the Jedi's hope, the chosen one, their prophecy, the thing that like they're like, we were lying. Like, the shroud of the dark side has fallen, and all we have is, like, maybe Anakin Skywalker can do something. And he takes him and he turns him into a fucking monster. He uses his pain from being a slave and losing his mother, the Tusken Raiders brutally killing, you know, and he takes that and he warps it, and he guides, you know, this beautiful senator into his life, and they get married on a secret place in Naboo, Palpatine's homeworld, where he has connections, and he, like, you know, at least in the old continuity, he knew that priest, that, you know, he knew everything, and he did that, and he used the Jedi's chosen one to mock them and made it his apprentice. I find his mockery the worst.
Sure.
Like, it's just, like, if you're going to win, like, win right, you know? Like, he'll stab you in the back and then just, like, mock you. It's like, I didn't do anything wrong.
Stab you in the back and then mock
like, I'm not worthy of being mocked, but he doesn't care because he's the culmination of this rule of two.
Sure.
To the point where he believes that he's superseded it.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
The rule of two is that when this person becomes stronger, you step back and you're gone. You're dead. Yeah. But he sets up contingencies to live forever. So he mocks the Sith in that regard, too.
And as opposed to, like, what I don't know, the rule of two may not necessarily, there's a lot of generations of that happening, like, going on, but, like, he has, like, how many, like, pseudo apprentices, or he's, like, setting up for apprentices at one time, right? Where it's like, well, I don't know what the transition between, like, Dooku and Maul was.
Sure.
But then he's also working on Anakin while he has Dooku. And then he gets Anakin to that point where he kills Dooku, and now you're the apprentice. It's not just, like, he's not, like, teaching his apprentice to surpass him.
And then his prize apprentice gets burnt, and he's like, well, I'll just turn him into a Frankenstein monster. And then the chosen one has a kid, Luke. Another Anakin.
Yeah.
I'll do the same
thing. We can turn him.
Yeah. Take your father's place. Not only am I going to do that and mock Vader, but I'm going to make him do it. Like, Vader wants it. That's how much he's my puppet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right, what else we got?
Let's see. We have Andoniba. Says, did you get the Master Mill is assigned to at the end? Rig Nima is the doctor that treats Yoda in the episode Visions of Season 6 in the Clone Wars.
In the Lost Mission. I did not get that. I can't, in my mind, picture Rig Nima, so I'm going to look it up.
Just when he was sick, and he's like, use your help I will to escape.
You know, good at defying the council you are. Yes.
Yeah, that whole thing, right? Okay. No, I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't think about that person being a Jedi Master either.
Okay, yeah, I immediately remember this character. That's Rig Nima.
Oh,
so
okay.
I did not know that. I have not diligently studied Clone Wars, and I did not make that connection. That's really cool that she'll end up being what's effectively a doctor for the Jedi.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
Darkwing 009, what were your thoughts on Anakin being a pod racer fanboy still? I kind of like that he still watched illegal streams myself, even though I don't condone illegal streaming, of course. Very Sith.
Very Sith. Yeah, no, I did like that because in episode 2, when you go to the Outlander Club, I think there's a pod race on one of the TVs. Like, there's definitely, like, you know, droids playing football and stuff
Makes
like
sense
that.
to have sports and stuff, yeah.
But I never really considered that, you know, Qui-Gon says this is illegal in the Republic, pod racing. It's far too dangerous. You can't do it. So Anakin watching pod races and Padme, being like, it's just kind of funny to think about those two. It's like, I'm going to watch the race, honey. Like open up like some can.
No, yeah. I thought it was cool to
Yeah.
He was a part of that, and he wants to still like see what's going on. And
I mean, the dude finished one race.
Yeah,
like
crazy.
He just started his career
Humans don't
and
do
left.
that,
Exactly.
So I thought that was really cool. Also, the bar, the Outlander Club, was like mentioned by Obi-Wan for a second.
It was,
too.
yeah.
Like he's like last time he was in a bar.
Yeah.
cut
off someone's hand.
Someone's hand.
I sent Elon home and cut off someone's hand.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was fun too. Cyborg. Did you guys like that Anakin kept doubting himself because of his new mechanical hand?
Yep.
I really liked how Mike Chen really put it out there, how difficult it was for Anakin to have lost his hand. No, that's one of my favorite parts, I think, is that him getting used to that hand and like, yeah, I feel like you would doubt yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's going to be a big change. And like if I really lost my hand, like one, I'm not going to be able to just have a mechanical hand like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's much better than like what we have nowadays, but it's definitely got to be a thing. Was like, can I still do the stuff I did before? And like, am I going to be capable of this? And
yeah,
I liked that and how much we were in his mind of the struggle that he was having, trying to get it to cooperate like it was a part of him until he finally learns like it's not that the arm needs to, attune and accept all the actual flesh and nerves and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's that myself, I need to accept that my hand is a part of me and utilize it as if it is, rather than fighting it. And I really enjoyed that. So I was glad he dove into that. Josh Anderson says, what is your favorite quote or line from the book?
Well, I'll definitely have to keep this in mind whenever we do future stuff. Like, keep track of my favorite. But I did try to quickly find, because I saw your question coming up. And I said it before, but it's this last passage here in chapter 14, Obi-Wan in Space. Obi-Wan let thoughts flow through him, dwelling on them enough to process, but without ever stewing on them. This is when he's talking about Satine, by the way. Though when he considered what might happen if, of all people, Anakin stumbled upon his history with Satine, he found himself smirking, and he allowed himself to hold on to the briefest moment of amusement. I like that because he talks about he lets it come in and then lets it go away. And he lets it comes in and comes away. Satine comes in and goes away. Anakin finding out in, and that's what he holds on to. Like Anakin like being like, hey, it's your girlfriend, huh? I think that was my favorite part of the book.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm trying to think of quote-wise and stuff for me, I don't have anything initially except for, and it may be because it's one of the fresher parts, but I really liked the description of Obi-Wan and Anakin at the very end of like when the battle droids are being taken away, and how they're talking about like who these two are and like
little pinpricks of blue light, like slowly advancing,
and it's like, and it's Anakin and Obi-Wan, and together they can do anything,
and
it's like, and I feel like that's a very true aspect of them. Like when those two are together, they can do anything, and it's not until those two have been split apart, and you've broken that brotherhood, and they are themselves fighting, that like everything else just starts collapsing around it.
That's a fantastic pull, and it's made even better that that's exactly how the Revenge of the Sith novelization starts.
Is that
Anakin, or it's like Skywalker and Kenobi, name a better team.
Yeah.
And then it talks about the stuff that they've done, and like whenever the Chancellor's taken, there's only one call they make.
Who do you call? Yeah. It's like these two will get it done. We may get other Jedi in there, and they could die, or they might not make it and stuff, but those two always come through. Even though there's chaos and things get messy, they get it done.
I enjoy that. That's like one of your favorite passages, and from what we've learned about Mike Chen, that is probably...
It's probably on
very
purpose.
Intentional.
Yeah.
Homage to the beginning of
That's cool. I didn't know that, so that's really neat.
That's cool.
I like that. And then we have...
Say that name.
Inzain
the Membrane 97.
Inzain in the Membrane. Oh, I see. Okay. Inzain in the Membrane. After reading this book and having watched the Clone Wars, how do you feel about Anakin and Padme's relationship?
I mean, Anakin and Padme's relationship is the weakest part of the prequels for me, just because, I mean, there's some really weird, dumb scenes in there, and even Revenge of the Sith, which is one of my favorite, I don't know, I love all the prequels, but it's a very rewatchable movie, I should say. Like, there's still like that scene on the balcony at her apartment where I'm like, just shut up, you know. I kind of do that in my head because it's a romantic subplot from a 1920s movie, not necessarily a 1990s movie.
Sure,
is what it feels like to me, and I understand what Lucas was doing. It's just the weakest part. So anytime I get any real emotion in there, it always is enhanced to me. And this one, especially their date, I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
I like that moment too. Like when they're in front of her, they talk about how like she reaches up to grab where his Padawan braid isn't.
They're looking around,
and they're kind of looking around, and Padme has that look of like, he says like, they got like a little tiny bit of rush that they're in front of like some of the most important people in the galaxy right now.
Stop doing this.
Like my boss is here and your bosses are here.
Yeah,
and they did that. And then Anakin gives her his Padawan braid in carbonite.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Oh, that was sweet.
Which just begs to one day be found again and in perfect condition because it's in carbonite.
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, I agree. That was one of my favorite things was the dating aspect and being able to see and hear, like, what went through their mind, what it's like. Like, it just felt like a natural date, you know, and I really enjoyed that. And it had much more emotion and stuff to it, I think, than what you get from the movies.
Yeah.
But it's also a thing where it's like, I don't know if this would work well in, like, a movie or a Clone Wars episode or anything, but I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So that was our questions. I want to thank everybody for putting those in here. And
for Brotherhood and
this
stuff.
This was really fun. I'm greatly looking forward to the next one.
Well, we did have a poll that ran here on Twitch, and from that, it looked like, I think it was like 52% voted, and it's going to be
52%.
Light of the Jedi is what won.
Oh, we're going into the High Republic.
For the High Republic era. So
I'm literally starting this tonight. I'm not going to be rushing anymore.
This will be the next book that we will be covering.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we should say, too, our next date for Badonkagonk. Let me double check it and make sure I have it right. But it will be in July.
Yep.
And I believe it was July 21st?
July 21st, guys. We're going to be talking about The Light of the Jedi, the first foray into the High Republic. And again, I understand where it's like, guys, I want to see more, read more books, get caught up. There's a lot for us to get through. But again, I need you to go and annoy Calvin and Rick. No. Please just let us know in the comments of YouTube, here on Twitch, on Twitter, anywhere that you find Blind Wave that you're liking Badonkagonk and you want to see more. And then Aaron and I can justify more than we've already justified.
Yeah, sure. Doing it maybe twice a month or something. Yeah. I don't know, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
We still have 10 minutes or so, so we may be able to snag like another question, maybe two, depending on how long we talk about them.
Grab some questions we can and do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Gonk, if you could find any questions or anything, maybe not pertaining to the book, maybe we can answer a few of those. Good. Thank you. You threatened him with that restraining bolt, and it's been like, all right, well, I better listen now. So,
we'll go here with.
I believe it's deloading.
Deloading. So deloading 1 says, I've been having so much fun with Kenobi, and that last episode was amazing. Is it just me, or does it seem like there isn't enough time, being just one episode left to really end all the stories and ideas that have happened throughout this season? Yeah, 1 episode left, Aaron.
It's definitely sad because, like, I'm like, man, I would love this to be 10 episodes or 50. You know, like, I enjoy just seeing Ewan McGregor playing as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's so fun. I love it when he's doing this and stuff, you know, and but no, I mean, do they have enough time? I'm sure they do, at least for most of the story plot stuff they want to do. Maybe they leave a few things where it's like, well, what was up with this character, or where'd this person go? And maybe that ties into something else they have, like the Andor series, or like, I think that's not taking place too far away from this. You know, it's still happening between episodes 3 and 4.
Sure.
So we have a few different stories and plots and stuff that are going to be happening elsewhere, and maybe they have some tie-ins and stuff. So, no, I imagine that they'll have enough to solve at least the main stuff they want to have.
Yeah, and this is always a question that my default, you know, hand-wavy answer is like, just ask me next time, you know, because ask me at the end of the season, and then I can be like, hey, I think that you could have done something here. But the older and older I get, and the more and more I watch Star Wars, I don't know, like, it's always fun to say, well, I think this could have happened, or I wish this would have happened, or this would have been a cool story or stuff. But like, I just enjoy the stories more the more I watch them. And I have 100% rewatched parts of Kenobi.
Sure.
But I'm literally looking forward to rewatching it after it's all done.
Yeah.
Because then it's not about like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's about, oh my God, what, like I know what's on screen. I can, just like we did for this book, just like we did for that R2 shot, when there's 2 R2s in there, we can go deeper.
Sure. It's like looking for, like when you look for foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Like it's much easier to see once you know, like, here's what the story was.
It is.
And these things actually were pointing to that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, do you think that they'll cover everything? How will we do it? It's like, well, once we're done with it, I can look back and be like, here are the things we didn't cover and how I feel about that. And some of that stuff I may be like, we should have covered it probably. Or other things I might be like, this stuff I feel like is distance enough that we can tie it somewhere else. Maybe it can go to a book. Maybe it can go to another TV show or something. So, no, I'm definitely excited. And it's definitely been a fun series to like. It's another one of those where like we're trying to get in the mind of Obi-Wan. And I really like trying to get into, like, especially after reading, not this book, this is the other one, but reading Brotherhood and like being in Obi-Wan's mind and hearing his thoughts of like Anakin and Satine and him trying to solve mysteries and all this stuff. Like it's cool to try to like get in there with the Kenobi series as well and be like, what is Obi-Wan thinking in this moment? What's he feeling? How, depressed is he, or how like stressed out is he, or and it's really good. I'm really liking it so far.
There was one thing that I forgot to mention that I really liked at one point, and I can't for the life of me remember right now where it is in the book, but either Anakin or Obi-Wan mention a line that Qui-Gon would say. And it was, I think, about regret. Like, it will be a hard life, one without reward, without remorse, without regret.
Okay.
That is a real deep cut, because that's from what's called a tone poem. And they were commercials for the Phantom
trailers?
Menace. Yeah, there's one for Padme. There's one for Shmi has one.
Maul had one.
Maul has an amazing one. It's the most lines Peter Serafinowicz ever has as Maul. But Qui-Gon also has one, and his tone poem is, it will be a hard life, one without reward, without remorse, without regret. A path will be placed before you, and the choice is yours alone. And like through that, you will find out who you are. It's a really cool tone poem, but I like that is even referenced. So good job, Mike Chen.
Good. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Padme has a really cool one too, where she's like, there are things I cannot do, and she lists all these things, and then she's like, at the end, she's like, but there are certainly things I will do, and then she's just shooting shit.
I think I remember that. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
All
and
right.
Shmi's is really sad.
Yeah, I can imagine so. I mean, that whole thing, she's losing her son, but hoping for better things for him too. So it's like, I'm not going to see him again, maybe ever. The galaxy's huge, but I'm hoping for him not, he won't be a slave. And so
Sure.
She has a sad story.
It is.
But that's what Star Wars is. There's sad stories, there's good stories, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gonk.
There's cranky stories too. We know. We have one more question here from Light Shadow Onyx, who says, do you think the lightsabers in Kenobi are too bright?
I will say that I haven't noticed it, but I think that you also look at lightsabers a lot harsher than I do.
Yeah.
Because you spent a lot more time, I think, doing like the roto of
hundreds of hours
of it.
I think they're properly bright. If anything, lightsabers weren't bright enough.
Now,
you got to think, like, when you're filming something, do you want it to look like you filmed it with a camera, or do you want it to look like you
are seeing
it with your eye? That's the most important thing. Like, a lot of people like to say, like, when they're talking about cinematography, it's like, J.J. Abrams has lens flares too much. And it's like, that's a fine criticism, I suppose. But if that's the only thing you're talking about when it comes to his cinematography, you don't know much about cinematography. Like, he's doing that to let you know, like, he's filming this as if it's from a camera.
Yeah.
A lot of Star Wars isn't necessarily like that. But, if a lightsaber is that bright, it's going to overexpose certain things. And I don't even think it's necessarily the white value that you're hitting against. It's the interactive lighting. It just looks more real, and there's a magic trick there. Because lightsabers didn't look super, super real, this kind of magic facade goes in front of our eyes when we're watching movies. 24 frames a second looks like a movie. It feels like a movie. When you look at 60 frames a second, it's fake. this isn't real.
Sure, yeah.
But it's more true to life. So it's the same thing with the lightsabers. The more real we have that bright prop in their hand that gives off good light and looks like it belongs, the more we deny fantasy and accept reality. But we're not here for reality. We're here for fantasy.
Sure.
So I can understand why light shining onyx, that might be something like, I think they're too bright. But it's a thing that you, as a moviegoer that's been watching movies for a long time, will have, but future generations probably won't have that problem.
Sure. And if they're using like actual, which I think they are, like interactive lighting blades, like that's the way the light is really going.
It is.
So like it is a natural lighting, and it's not that I mean, maybe it's too bright on there, but then putting the little like rotoscoping over top of it too to sell the rest of it.
It does.
Like for me, I don't look at it and be like, it doesn't look. For me, it turns into a lightsaber. Yeah. And I just like that is a lightsaber. The light's reflecting. It's dark. This is stuff that I didn't have in episodes 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Like it's something new, and it's just adding to it for me. And it's like it's something I didn't realize I was missing before, and I don't really think about it now that I have it either. I probably take it for granted, honestly.
But if you really want to screw up some like your brain when it comes to lightsaber lighting, and especially the prequels, Episode 3, they started to do interactive digital lighting.
Okay.
Like if Obi-Wan's holding his lightsaber, they would roto his entire body, and then add like a light value on top of him, but it wouldn't, it wouldn't like go into the crevices of his eyes. It wouldn't go into his beard. It wouldn't go into his hair. It's just a sheen of light that, like, let's say the lightsaber goes from one side of his body to another, then, and you can't see because the camera's not on me, gonk! But whenever, like, it goes from one side of the body to the other, they would just kind of, like, artificially shift that mask, and if you really pay attention to it, does not look good. But movie magic, we accept it.
Sure.
Like you're watching R2, and you like when you watch R2 in that clip that we saw earlier, like you can see he came in from this side a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's not like we know that he's there because when we watch movies, it's not what's in camera, it's what we're seeing and what we're feeling here.
Okay.
I'm pointing at the wrong thing. Sorry.
What we're feeling.
I really wish Gonk would have went away from me at that point.
Look away somewhere else now. All right. Do we have any other questions, Gonk? Is that everything for now?
I think that's everything for now. I think we have a book.
All right. There's no more questions. We've covered that. Yeah. So, no, guys, thank you so much. As we mentioned before, we are going to be having The Light of the Jedi.
Yep.
As our next book, we'll be having our next Badonkagonk live, twitch.tv/blindwave on July 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern time. No, I mean, as far as Brotherhood goes, I haven't read a lot of Star Wars books, I don't feel like, or a lot of books in general. I had a lot of fun with the story and everything. So I definitely am looking forward to... This one is going to be very different because I feel like I'm not going to know anybody in this.
It's all going to be a fresh new
So it's
start.
like, what do I picture these people to be? Whereas like Obi-Wan, Anakin, like those kind of people, I already have an image in my head of who they are, what they look like. So it'd be interesting and different.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking forward to it as well. So,
well, Aaron, thank you for another fine addition to the Badonkagonk Podcast. Thank you guys, especially everybody that read the book along with us. Let us know if this was like your first foray into Star Wars literature. I would love to hear from you if this is something that you liked and if it's something that you're going to continue with. And we got to, of course, thank Badonkagonk because his power has to be running out. He kind of has a hard limit. We're getting